my interest has always been the nature of inside, outside, and border, and the permeability and non-permeability of border, and how inside and outside relate to each other. When I say I really find that rooted in my early life, and I think it has a lot to do with Los Angeles as well, with the nature of Los Angeles and with what Los Angeles, in particular, California in general, has represented in this country, even in the world. And I see the strip of land that I grew up on, which is approximately 1 linear mile along the boardwalk from the Santa Monica Pier south. I see that strip of land as a bookend, a kind of that forms a brace with the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast. Statue of Liberty has always, since the 19th century, represented in public imagination the possibility to remake yourself and the hope that comes with that, and the kind of open-ended future. Whereas right there, on that little strip of land where I grew up, you had what I called the bounce back from that. I grew up in a hospital. It was a very unusual situation. I think that there were 2 other families that lived there for a short period of time, but I lived there for years with my father and mother in a tiny room in the hospital. And between the hospital on one hand and the honky-tonk at the other end of that mile, which was represented by the Santa Monica Pier and by the carny aspect of that, all of its sideshow attractions. And nestled in the crotch of the pier and the boardwalk, the original Muscle Beach, which was the flowering of body culture and health culture. Within that mile were all of the experiences and all of the concepts that have really guided me and obsessed me for the rest of my life. So you had, let me just say a few more things about that landscape, that very Los Angeles, landscape. You had end of the world type situation. You're literally on the Pacific Ocean. You're looking out, at that time especially, over this wide beach and this beautiful blue-green water, the vast sky, and this empty horizon, this complete blank canvas. Yeah. And on the other side, on the land side, at that time, it's sort of gentrified now. Shall we say it was tacky. And along the boardwalk, between my walk as a tiny little child, I would, in those days, 4 years old, 5 years, 6 years old, I would walk all of that all by myself. That would not be a problem. Well, if it was, I did it anyway. And the broken bodies at the hospital, which dealt with, it was a rehab hospital dealing with polio, with returned vets, with various neurological diseases, particularly multiple sclerosis. And the carny aspect at the end of on the pier, where you had the commodification of various, in its lowest form of this kind of Hollywood fantasy that you're selling, you know, you bought the postcards and the games and the fantasy in a kind of manic, gleeful, and totally insane fashion. You know, and then the body culture that around Muscle Beach, they all in their various ways were addressing, what do I do now? Because the dream has gone splat. The dream that Los Angeles represented then as now, you know, of Hollywood in particular, the dream of remaking yourself, the dream of glamour, of fantasy, of having everything you want, you know, and the life that you want. You come here, you come to the end of the land. It hasn't happened. What do? Your bodies are broken. How do you deal with the inevitable? How do you readjust? How do you make that readjustment? Right there, split between this vast openness and this crowded, derelict end of the line.